Hey YouTube, Joyboy here. So, today I want to talk about some potentially crazy foreshadowing that may or may not be the case, but I think is going to be fun to look at, and what situation might lead to Big Mom finally catching up to the Straw Hats. And so guys, here's the situation as of the last chapter. Big Mom does not have Zeus. Zeus being her primary method of traveling on the sea, also probably her quickest method. Now she is still able to follow the Straw Hats who are trying to escape her, but she's doing so via a path that Perospero is creating, but it seems highly unlikely that just using Perospero's ability, she'll be able to catch up to the Straw Hats. Now don't get me wrong guys, it's theoretically possible. Maybe Perospero amps up the speed in which he creates this candy slug and it works, and he can do it fast enough to catch up the Straw Hats. I just don't see it. The Thousand Sunny is the greatest ship on the planet. At least I figure that it's the greatest. So I don't expect the fleets to be able to catch up with the Sunny just based on sailing alone. And not even mentioning the fact that they can use the Coupe de Burst and travel 1 kilometer at a time. And I think it's also important to mention that the only obvious way that they would be able to entrap the Straw Hats would be to surround them with ships coming from all the various islands in Whole Cake Island. This in fact was Montdor's plan, and a plan that I and others have previously speculated will not work because of the Sun Pirates. The theory is, and I talked about this I think a couple weeks ago, but the theory is that the Sun Pirates return to Whole Cake Island was foreshadowed when Brooke and Chopper seem to see a merman, and I don't see who this could be other than the Sun Pirates, and they seem to be fishing, and the thought is that they're fishing for those transponder snails that patrol the seas, which means that it would be very difficult, if this is true, for them to track the movement of the Straw Hat Pirates as well as communicate it to the outskirt islands, making it very, very hard for the Straw Hats to get surrounded by a fleet. Now if this doesn't end up being true, then for sure I could see this as being the way that the Big Mom Pirates sort of trap the Straw Hats, but I really believe in this theory, so we're just going to accept it as true. So how exactly would it be possible for the Big Mom Pirates to catch up to the Straw Hats if they are going to do that? And so the two other thoughts that I brought up in my first reaction to the last chapter is that potentially Zeus finds a way to return. This is something that I don't really believe in, but is of course possible and would be an obvious way that Big Mom could catch up. And number two would be Big Mom essentially jumping or something stupid and catching up with the Straw Hats because of mad physical prowess. And if you can't tell, I'm not really a fan of either of these. I don't think either of these are very satisfying. So without an obvious way for this to occur, maybe we just have to speculate, right? That Big Mom and the Big Mom Pirates won't catch up to the Straw Hats, that they will literally just run away until Sanji shows up with the cake, or we have to assume that Oda is going to do it in a very interesting and surprising way. And so before we move on to the potential foreshadowing, I want you guys to know that my bias is real here, because I really expect Big Mom to not find the cake on the Straw Hat ship and kill Perospero. For whatever reason, I feel like this was a wasted point in the story unless it actually happens. And so for this to occur, Big Mom would obviously need to catch up to the Straw Hats in some way. And so I may or may not be actually looking for this way actively. That being said guys, I don't think it takes away from how cool this potential foreshadowing would be, and I think it's worthy of bringing up just to see, just how god level is Oda. But anyway guys, I was inspired for this theory from a tweet that I got from @KingJack37, who wondered why Oda introduced the boiling sea at the beginning of Whole Cake Island. And he connected it with Perospero's line about how his arm would melt when holding a hot cup of tea. So if Big Mom is using Perospero's ability, the Candy Sea Slug, to traverse the sea and they reach the boiling sea, we can probably presume that his candy would melt and they would no longer be able to follow the Straw Hats. I thought this was awesome until I realized that the boiling sea is most likely outside of Whole Cake Island, or at the very least not within her main territories, so it wouldn't be where they're planning to meet up with Sanji. So if this has any part to play, it would be very, very late in the story. But it's a cool potential connection nonetheless. But it got me thinking, right? There is actually another interesting part of Big Mom's territory that was specifically described by Oda. And this was the part in the story where the Straw Hats encountered the ants. This actually took place directly in the middle of Totland, and how this was described is that at night it gets so cold that the sea, the Candy Sea, essentially freezes. And these Straw Hats essentially were screwed and had to wait out the night in order to progress further in Whole Cake Island. And so guys, the time that it takes to travel from Chocolate Town to Whole Cake Island is approximately a day. We've also gone through almost an entire day already with the events leading up to the wedding itself, the escape, and what's occurring now. And I also think that there might be some potential that Sanji's baking of the cake in some way gets delayed. Meaning that if the Straw Hats are going to stick to the plan, they should wait for Sanji somewhere in the middle of the sea. And if it reaches nighttime, the sea, the Candy Sea, might freeze over, giving the Big Mom pirates an opportunity to catch up with them, and allowing Big Mom to move freely, which could set up some extremely interesting events before Whole Cake Island concludes. But anyway guys, I thought that this was just really interesting. I mean, Oda put this in the story for some reason. As of right now, it is just a fun detail that really wasn't overly important to include, but if Oda intended for it to come back into the story later with greater importance, that would honestly be something that I would expect Oda to do. And if he does end up doing that, then my god. But anyway guys, that's all I really had to say today. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree and why. Just share your thoughts. Like the video if you like the video, dislike the video if you dislike the video. Make sure to check out links to Discord and Patreon in the description. Epic brofist to all of my Patreons. Subscribe if you haven't, and as always guys, have a wonderful day.